Well, what better way to continue to welcome Pete Lembo into town as the new UB football coach by taking him to the place with the best wings in town. Hi, everybody, and hello to all Bulls fans. Welcome to Wingnutz, their newest location in Amherst. I'm voice of the Bulls, Paul Peck, with new UB football head coach Pete Lembo. We are here at the Millersport location of Wingnutz. Size, sauciness, crunch, words to live by, right, Pete, in all parts of life.
No question. And what wonderful people here, too. So friendly, just like the rest of Buffalo. But I'm staying right across the street, so I'll be coming over here pretty often. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is. So the Wingnutz location here on Millersport Highway, just off of campus, their second location just opened up in the last couple of weeks. We'll be talking a little more about the wings and everything as we move through, but you can see good crowd here. A lot of members of your staff are here. We've got a lot of Bulls fans here. This continues, this crazy 2 weeks and 1 day since you were officially named the Bulls head football coach. What has that 2 weeks and 1 day been like for you?
Well, I've never gotten so little sleep and been so energized at the same time. I actually am going to fly back to South Carolina tomorrow for some family stuff this weekend, and I have a feeling I'm just going to pass out on the plane. But it's been wonderful, and it's such a friendly town. The people on campus have been so helpful. The late nature of my hire has meant that a lot of things have had to happen at once. Normally, you get hired in mid-December. You've got 2 or 3 weeks to put a staff together. You get your strength and conditioning program up and running. The players come back, and you go recruit, or you go recruit and the players come back. This has literally all happened in 1 week where we had to get all of those things going. I took the time to have 86 individual meetings with every player on the active roster. Those were wonderful, very time-consuming, but 100% worth it because it allowed me to really get a sense for where these guys are at and where our baseline is in terms of moving forward from here. A lot of really good conversations with staff. We've retained several, and then we've brought in some really good guys. We were able to get out on the road recruiting. That would not have happened if it weren't for Mark Allnut and his staff being able to help us transition quickly and get paperwork done and those kinds of things so that we could get strength and conditioning up and running, get coaches on the road the last week out. And we got out locally, which is really important. And we're continuing to go through a process at this point of hiring some support staff. So it has been incredibly energizing, and every day I'm more and more grateful to be here.
Could you have pulled this off if you hadn't kind of been there, done that? All of these jobs at various points in your life, maybe not all within 2 weeks, but asking you to do all those things that you've just done in 2 weeks, could you have done that 10 or 15 years ago, maybe when you were in the early stages of your head coaching career?
I don't think there's any way. I really don't. I think having gone through several of these transitions as a head coach and as an assistant have been so valuable to me just in terms of managing the day-to-day. And even some of the really tough conversations that I've had to have, I feel like even those have been incredibly positive because of how we have been able to manage these last 2.5 weeks. So it's been very humbling, but very satisfying at the same time. And again, I just keep falling back on really good people here, and that has been the key to making these last 2.5 weeks as productive and successful as they've been.
All right, so I know really, among the most important of those list of things that you've done was getting the staff together. It's always the most important that your head coach is only as good as the guys that he's working with. And you mostly have all of that done now. Take us through a little bit, I've got the list in front of me. You certainly, start with the offense. Take us through a little bit, bullet points on where the direction you're going with some of the guys you retained, some new guys. Just take us through, give us a little cursory introduction into those guys that are going to work with you.
Sure. Well, the irony of all of this happening so quickly at UB was that 2 weeks or so before all of this happened, with the job opening and the rapid pace of the search and so forth, Dave Patnode got hired here as the offensive coordinator. And Dave and I go back to the mid-'90s when we were both young coaches and hustling around the Northeast and working camps and recruiting and doing all those things. And there were 2 or 3 different times where we thought we might end up on the same staff working together. And like any 50-plus-year-old coach, we've all seen the highs and lows of coaching college football, and we've kept in touch and supported each other. And so I was so excited when Dave landed here, happy for him, and thought, okay, this is a great situation for him. And so when all of this happened, I had to go into silent mode. I was not going to be the type of guy to speak out of turn or anything while a highly confidential search was going on. But certainly once things became official and I got here, meeting with Dave was one of the first meetings I had, and I made it very clear to him that I wanted him to stay and be the leader of the offensive staff and offensive side of the ball, and that I would lean on him with his experience and how he's been in that role many times before in his career. And he's done a really nice job. And you know, I met with several other coaches, some of which were recent hires, some of which have been here for a while, and determined that there were other coaches, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that we were going to retain, that I felt like under Dave's leadership and under my structure and organization that could flourish here moving forward.
Right. Just a couple of the names for everybody to start getting familiar with them. Ray Pickering will be your running backs coach. Matt Stanfield stays on the offensive line. Ron Whitcomb has been your tight end coach before. He'll go back to that spot and head up the recruiting, and I know you're working on finishing the wide receiver spot. So as a group on the offense, led by Dave, how excited are you for that?
Very excited. And what people don't always appreciate is that when you have some guys that have been here, that can really flatten the learning curve for the new staff, because as long as they're the right kind of people and have the right kind of values and are all in to where you're going, which I really believe these guys are, you can get some really incredible intel on the lay of the land and things that might work and not work, info on the players that can be very valuable as you build those relationships. So I like where our offensive staff is at. I'm really excited about the gentleman that'll be starting work on Monday. There's already stuff out on social media about him, so people can certainly do research on his background. But another guy that has worked with me before, who knows exactly what he's getting himself into under my structure, and a guy who's really done incredibly well in his last job these last several years.
I know your offensive line coach, Matt Stansfield, will enjoy the fact that his starting guard, Tyler Doty, just walked in here.
Oh, good.
Always good to have the offensive lineman hanging out and muscling up on some good wings here in Buffalo as well,
I would say that Tyler could probably put a few of these away.
Yes, I'm sure he can. On the defensive side, Joe Bowen will be the defensive coordinator. The thing that makes me the most intrigued about Joe's hiring is you stole him from Miami, which means they got a little worse and we got a little better.
Well, that never hurts, I guess. I have a lot of respect for what Chuck Martin's done down there. And so Joe and I crossed paths our first year at South Carolina, and he did an incredible job. You know, some grad assistants are still in the formulative stages, and they're feeling things out. Well, Joe was much further along in his career, later in his 20s when he got to South Carolina. He was already married, very mature, and he came in from Florida State, where he worked for Mike Norvell and Adam Fuller, two guys that I worked with at Memphis. So we had that in common right away. Joe had already learned my special teams system from his time at Florida State. So as soon as he got to South Carolina, he was all in on special teams. He was pretty much my right-hand man, even as a graduate assistant, and I earned just a great relationship grew over the course of that year. I just knew that he was going to be a rising star in the profession, and then I helped him get back to Miami, and had multiple conversations with Chuck Martin when Chuck was hiring him, and I just told him that this guy was going to be a slam dunk, and obviously they've done quite well there the last 2 years.
Awesome. Adam Morris, another one of your ex-players from Ball State, will be the defensive line coach. Holman Copeland stays at cornerbacks coach. Brian Doherty, safeties. And then Tyler Hancock will be nickels and special teams.
And let's reverse that order. Let's reverse that order. Special teams and nickels.
I was going to say, being your special teams coach, does he know what he's getting into?
Yeah, so Tyler was my analyst at Maryland the 2 years that I was there. And he was a younger guy then. Is the term green behind the gills, or
behind the ears?
Yeah, I'm trying to throw out stuff from like CNN or whatever.
You were going to make it like a SpongeBob reference.
No, I could, but Tyler has come a long way. He came a long way just in the 2 years at Maryland. He has gone on to lead some special teams units, whether they be off the field as an analyst or on the field like he did at Charlotte. And there was no question in my mind that this would be the guy that we would go after. We stole him away from Baylor, where he had been doing a really good job, and Coach Aranda down there knew of our relationship and was very supportive of him coming here. But he will do a great job, and special teams will be a huge emphasis. Time commitment, meeting commitment, practice field commitment, personnel commitment, coaching staff being involved. And it's more than just punting the football or creating an explosive return. It's really the essence of the game. It's the fundamentals that we'll teach to all 110 plus guys in the program, and it impacts how they play offense and defense. So there will be a huge emphasis on it. And Tyler will have my full support, and I'm really excited to see what he will do.
And most coaches, and I don't assume you'll be any different, will say that one of the most important hires is your strength and conditioning coach. Tell us about Ryan Horton and his role this time of year where he's really important.
Yeah, so Ryan's here tonight. Hopefully he's having a beer because he hasn't had a chance to take a breath since last Saturday when he got in the car and drove straight up here from Atlanta. I offered him the job at about 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night, and 6 o'clock the next morning he was driving up here. So excited, and made about 20 phone calls on the way up to speak to all the people he needed to. And then how about our HR people turning around and getting him squared away so that 7 o'clock that Monday morning we could start up a strength and conditioning program. It's just amazing the support that we've had here. Heather in our HR department and in athletics has just been awesome and above and beyond. So getting back to Ryan, when I hired a guy named Dave Feely at Ball State, Dave came from FIU where he worked with Ryan. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to Dave Feely being the head strength coach at Temple later in his career, where Ryan worked under Dave. I lose my offensive coordinator of 8 years to Elon, where he went back, where he worked with me as an assistant coach, and he hires Ryan as his strength and conditioning coach. And I've got those in reverse order. But my point is that some of the people that I am closest with in this profession, people I talk to weekly and would trust with my life, had worked with Ryan. And so I knew philosophically how he would stand in terms of what he believed in strength and conditioning. And I also had a great sense for what he was going to be like organizationally and in terms of his emotional intelligence and how he would deal with players. And he's been fabulous. He has just been fabulous, and I see a lot of smiles, even as hard as they're working in the weight room. I see a lot of really happy guys right now, which is great.
How easy has this, I know it's not easy, but having such a good coaching tree because of the places that you've been and the impact that you've made on some of these younger coaches to be able to tap into that for these jobs?
Yeah, there's no question. The biggest part for me was going back and being an assistant coach the last 8 years because, quite frankly, I had a great network of guys, and then about halfway through my Ball State experience, once we had some success, most of those guys were able to jettison themselves off to different places, and a lot of them are coaching in the Power 5 right now. Some of them are head coaches. One's at Navy as a head coach. You know, some of them are FCS head coaches. So I had a really good network that was so good to a degree it dried up a little bit. And going back and being an assistant coach really gave me a chance over those last 8 years to really refresh that network with some young and up-and-coming guys. And some of them are hanging out right here behind me,
Great.
having wings and pizza and interacting with our donors and fans, and so it's great to see.
We are at Wingnutz in Amherst, just across campus from the obviously the North Campus here. Newest location for Wingnutz, one of the most popular wing places in town. This is the In the Bullseye podcast. My name is Paul Peck with New Bulls head football coach Pete Lembo. We're going to talk to the Wingnutz guys here in a second, but I want to ask one more question. As you're going through all those meetings, you're getting to know those 86 players. Are you starting to get a feel for what this team is all about, what they're good at, what they're strong at, what you're going to have to work on as far as getting us to that August 29th opener?
Well, what I can tell you right now is that these are good kids. They are high character guys. They are not afraid to work hard. They appreciate what they have here. They have pride in this university. They believe that there is a commitment here to them and what they do. So those are really good building blocks. They believe they have good academic support. They believe they have good nutrition. They believe they have a good sports med program. They like the facilities that they go to work in every day. So there's a lot of good foundational stuff. And what they need is a really good culture that they can feel good about and flourish and be themselves and build great relationships with each other and with their coaches. They need some structure so they know what to expect when they walk in the building every day. And they need a real comprehensive plan for how we're going to get ourselves ready between now and August 29th.
And I hear that part of your team meetings, you're educating these guys on some of the finer theatrical, television, and musical presentations over your lifetime and my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard you drop the Blues Brothers reference at a team meeting today, my first thought was, that's great. Secondly, how many of those guys have any idea what he was talking about?
Yeah, no question. No, there's definitely some stuff that's flying over heads right now. But we do have intelligent guys, so we've got a chance to get them up to speed.
All right, so we are here at Wingnutz, and again, if you're a Western New Yorker, you have heard about this place in other locations. This is now the second location, and Pete and I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here. So we are ready to bring some of the Wingnutz folks in here and get a feel for what's going on. So put those headsets on. And look at the necklace, Pete. Look at
it's
not the most
impressive.
Buffalo thing
it's
ever.
It's impressive.
So, here, pin that down. Go ahead, tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Ed.
Ed, you're one of the creators here at Wingnutz,
My
right?
wife and I created Wingnutz, yes.
Wow. All right, tell Pete the story about how this thing all got started at a Knights of Columbus, Ed.
Well, that's where we started publicly. We started making the wings in '05 because we were so sick and tired of going out for wings and having them have problems. So we decided to solve those problems.
Do it yourself.
That's it. And the three problems that we stopped right away to get fixed were size, sauciness, crunch. We did that after a year of trial and error, and when we finally decided to test it on humans, it actually blew us right out of our basement into the backyard. We catered for 9 years, worked in a bar for a year, and then we finally got to the Knights of Columbus, where we finally opened up publicly. And we were there for almost exactly 4 years, and the whole world started finding out about us. COVID wrecked it, as you know, and then all of a sudden we met the people
But you persevered through it.
Yes, and we met the people from Part of My Take, and they put us on their podcast, and it just took off from there.
See the power of podcasts, Pete.
Oh, yeah.
Power of
I
podcasts.
firmly believe in podcasts.
So what are the emotions for you, Ed? This is a great spot, you know, this is a great restaurant. Everything is going on. You got crowds here. To have finally gotten this little kitchen creation to the point where you've got this thriving restaurant off campus here in Amherst, what are the emotions for you?
several, okay? Let me start out by saying, first and foremost, the emotion of being so grateful to God for bringing us this far. And this is just the beginning, okay? Here at 1402 Millersport, everybody knows that's where we are. I am completely grateful to our crew, to AJ and Chris, and to all the customers who come in these doors. Because without all of that, me and Alicia are nothing. And we never, ever forget that. Not one day goes by that we're not thankful. So with that said, I have to ask you, what are your emotions when you tried the wings?
Well, Pete, you've been a lot of places around this country, and I'm sure you've had some great ones and some not so good ones. So I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, let me just say this. I'm staying right across the street at the Marriott. You're going to be seeing a lot of me over the next couple months.
All right. This is our signature sauce.
Ed, I can tell you that I didn't grow up here, but I've been in Buffalo 30-plus years, and the thing that I like the best about this is all the wings in this town are great, right? But you eat these wings, you're like, man, these are bigger, they are different, they have a different taste. It's hard to differentiate yourself on a chicken wing in this town. You guys have done that, and I give you credit for that.
Thank you. It took, like I said, it took Alicia and I a year to come up with the texture, and while we were doing that, we came up with the first 3 sauces, which were the signature, Alicia's Sweet Heat, and Ed's Sizzlin' Hot. Those were all done right away. She eventually came out with the honey garlic. And then when we teamed up with the boys, we started putting it all together, and now we have everything that's on the menu.
Right.
And
well, and let me tell you, this pizza is legit, too.
Oh, my gosh, I love the pizza. I have to stop eating it because my doctor said you got to lose some poundage. But I could eat this pizza every day.
It's fabulous.
All right, so the lesson for you and the lesson for all of your team is have the guys come here and enjoy this, but not too often,
That's right.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
Emily, the nutritionist, is not going to be happy about that.
That's right.
Is she?
But you know what? You got to live a little, too. So life's all about balance, right?
Well, let me throw more balance at you. If you like the pizza, we have a sandwich, a couple different versions of it, on a roll this big. We call them the stuffies. They're on the menu, and you can look at what kinds there are. But the roll is the day before's pizza dough that never got cooked. And we form it into big rolls, and we cook it in the morning. And so this is like the greatest sandwich roll in Western New York.
I love it.
And I can't stop eating those either. Like I said, I got to watch myself. So.
And I've got to find a doctor in the area here before long. I got to get my benefits to kick in, okay? And then we got to figure out what do they call it? When you have just a general physician, or so there's a term for that.
Well, I thought you were going to, you're a little worried about a cardiologist.
Well, I'm
but
going to need to find one
in
of those.
moderation.
I actually have very low blood pressure, which probably has not been true the last 2.5 weeks.
Get him some of the sweet heat sauce.
Right?
We'll
That's
see
right.
if we
That's
can
right.
impact
And
that.
you're the coach at UB, right?
I am.
Okay, I just want to say that we are absolutely honored to be sponsors of UB Athletics.
Well, that's fabulous.
That's like, I brag about that to everybody. So I just
great.
thought
We're great.
I'd
We're
tell you guys, I think it's great.
We're honored to have you as part of this as well, too. And so this is one of 2 locations that you
Correct.
guys have. The other one in North Buffalo on Military Road and the Froth Brewery as well, too.
Correct.
Right?
It's right diagonal across the intersection from the famous restaurant.
Are we going to take a break at some point so I can have some
We're
more of
almost
this?
done. Yes, we're almost
All
done.
right, just because they're
prop
right here,
wings in front
they're
of us.
right here in front
I
of
know,
me, and
I know.
this is like
torture.
This is like taking a horse to water and not letting him drink it right now.
Torture. I know. All right. Well, on that note, Ed, thank you for the sponsorship. Thank you and congratulations to you and your wife and everybody, Ed and Chris and AJ that are part owners of this location. We're excited to have you
AJ's
guys.
a piece of work now.
Oh, yeah.
I
he
like
is.
him a lot.
Yep.
We're going to get along great.
We're
The
all
guys
par-
over there are smiling when they heard
Yeah.
you say that. So
we're all partners, and we all care very much about each
Right.
other.
Yeah.
So.
Good
Well,
stuff.
well, good. And good continued success with this. And
Thank you.
we know this is going to be the preferred place to come hang out before, after Bulls games. Make the reservation now for August 29th, celebrating Pete's first win on that Thursday of the opener.
Beat Lafayette.
Yeah, there you go. Beat Lafayette. So,
I can't wait.
Ed, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, we're going to wrap this up, Pete. Just kind of final thoughts on getting the full Buffalo experience tonight,
Yeah.
the wings, the last 2 weeks. Has anything surprised you or anything made you pause a little bit?
Just how friendly and helpful everybody has been. Like, I can just tell already that this is going to be an awesome place to live and work, and just going to be a great community to live in. with my youngest going off to college next year. We've got one out. We've got one at TCU. And like I say, the third one will be heading off to Elon in August. Jen and I are going to really, really enjoy our time here, hopefully for a long, long time, and be entering kind of a new stage of our life where we're going to be able to get out a little bit more. And I've always tried to be very engaged in the community, the places I've been a head coach. This is just going to make it so easy because everybody has been so receptive.
Well, spoken as somebody who didn't grow up here but came here 35 years ago and has been here ever since, because this is such a great place to live and an easy place to get comfortable in. I don't doubt at all for a second that that's all going to happen to you pretty quickly.
I appreciate that.
All right, Pete Lembo is the new UB Bulls football head coach. Go ahead. Yeah, Matt Walfriend says you got to eat one of those. We get you on camera.
I love it.
Eat one of those.
I'm just going to do this.
You're good. So, again, keep on a spring practice, football practice coming up, more roster developments, all headed towards the opener for Pete and the Bulls against Lafayette on Thursday night, August 29th over at UB Stadium. Pete, thank you very much for the time. Quick review.
Outstanding.
There you go. That's all you need to know.
Good stuff.
We thank you for joining us on this In the Bullseye podcast.